So in this lecture of biomechanics, this is the part 4 in which we see that joint movement terminology. Basically, in this we say when the human body is anatomical reference position, all body segments are considered to be maintained or positioned at 0 degree. That means simply we say that when we form an anatomical position, so all the body segments form an angle at 0 degree with other body segments. So this is basically the joint movement terminology basics. Now first we have to write, okay, in human body, sorry, we have to write not in one, okay, when human body in anatomical reference position, anatomical position, all body segments or every segment considered to be at 0 degree, okay, simply 0 degree. So basically in this we say that like that rotation, or another thing, rotation of a body segment away from anatomical position is basically named according to the direction of the motion, as we measure the angle between the body segment position and anatomical position. So rotation of the body away from the anatomical position is named according to the direction of the motion. So where the motion is to be performed, we see that the body segments or anatomical position is named like that. So first we have in this, first we see that sagittal plane movements, as we know, as we learned before, that sagittal plane body divided into two halves like that. So first we have to two left and right halves. So we have to consider that sagittal plane movements. So first write it, okay. Yes, okay, first we have to write it, sagittal plane, sagittal plane movements. So in this we consider simply three primary movements. Other movements are also included, but three are primary movements occurring. That includes the flexion, extension, and hyperextension. So first we have to write flexion, extension, and third one is hyperextension. So first we have to discuss one by one. So flexion is basically, if we say that the interior rotation of the head, as we know that interior is rotation of the head on front side. So if our hand moves, or if our trunk moves on the front side, or if our upper arm, forearm move on the hand, anything that moves on the upper limb or upper body half is moved on the front side or anterior side, that is called the flexion. So or in a lower leg, the body part is moving on the posterior side or back side. So we consider that like that. This is the pan. We consider this is the front side. So and this is like that. We consider that like a head. So or like head and trunk or head basically. So if that moves in anterior side, that is called the flexion. So if we again consider that this is the trunk, head and trunk, so the trunk move on anterior side, this is called flexion of the trunk. So basically this is like that. So in lower limb we also consider like this is the pan, and they move on the posterior, as we know this move on the, if they move on the posterior side, this is called the flexion of the lower leg and the knee joint basically. So then okay, then we have to know the extension is basically defined as the movement that returns the body segment to anatomical position from the position of the flexion. As we know that when we move our joint or when we perform a motion of flexion, movement of flexion, so after that when we return the body segment, they can form or they can cause the movement that is called extension. So basically this is the extension. And if we extend or if we if we move the joint or movement beyond the limit and beyond the anatomical position, the opposite direction in the, this is called the hyperextension. So this is like that, this is called the flexion, simply the flexion of the hand, and this is called the extension of the hand. If we move back the anatomical position, as we know that palm facing towards the wall, so this is like that. And the hyperextension is same like that. If we extend more on the back side, so this is called the hyperextension. They move beyond the anatomical position in the direction opposite to the direction of flexion. So basically this is like that, simply we say that. So in this we say that like that. So if our arms, it's a main point we have to note that if our arms or legs are internally or externally rotated from anatomical position, the flexion, extension and hyperextension are not considered in the sagittal plane movements. They are considered in any other plane movement. So this is like that. And in lower limb we consider the movement of the foot like that, or ankle joint. On ankle joint, dorsiflexion and plantarflexion are considered the movements in the sagittal plane. As we know that if we considered our hand like a foot, this is like that. Our hand again, this is like the dorsum side of the hand or sole of the foot. So this is like that. If we pull up from the toes, so this is like that, this is called the dorsiflexion. And if we pull up the in opposite, if we pull up the heel of the foot, so this is called the considered this side end, so this is called the plantar flexion. So this is like that. These are the main movements involved in the sagittal plane movements. Now we have to learn the frontal plane movements. Frontal plane movements. Okay, before we have to go in detail, first we have to complete the sagittal, to write the sagittal plane movements. Fourth one is dorsiflexion, and the fifth one is plantar flexion. Okay, like that. Now we have to consider the frontal plane movements. Number one is the abduction. These are the main two movements or major movements of frontal plane: abduction and adduction. Basically, abduction is to take away and abduction is to bring back. Basically, we say that if a body segment is moved away from the midline, that is called abduction. And if body segment moved to closer to the midline of the body, that is called adduction. So if we consider the what we have to, okay, we taken the two pans like that. The first one is like that, this is our body, and this is the our arm or shoulder joint or arm. So if that move is closer to the midline or close to the body, this is called the adduction. And if they move like that away from the body, away from the midline, this is called abduction. So this is abd and adduction, basically the phenomena of abd and adduction. Okay, these are the two movements, major movements. There are other movements like that. If we say that the side or lateral flexion, that is basically lateral flexion. That if we consider this span and this is our trunk, so trunk is moved. If trunk is moved like that or like that on both sides, right and left, that is called the lateral direction as flexion. So this is like that. And other examples are, First we have to draw the person's shoulder like that. This is the shoulder, this is the arm. Sorry, I'm bad at drawing. So this is like that. We form, this is the shoulder girdle. So basically the shoulder girdle, this whole includes the clavicle, scapula, and humerus and other shoulder bones. All are included. Many things are included in the shoulder girdle. So these form the shoulder girdle, and if the shoulder girdle move upwards and on superior side they're called elevation, and on inferior side they're called depression. Like that, if they move upward like that, they cause elevation of the shoulder girdle, and if they move like that on opposite side, we have to form that. Okay, this is like that. If they move in this direction, that is called the depression of the shoulder girdle, or they move on inferior side. Sorry, inferior side. In elevation they move on superior side, and in depression they move on inferior side. So first we have to write that. Okay, for other is to radial and angular deviation. Basically on the wrist joint, the thumb side is the radial side and the little finger side is the ulnar side. So first we have to see the if we move to like that on the radial side, this is called the radial deviation, and if we move the joint in the ulnar side or little finger side, this is called the ulnar deviation. Okay, like that. The other movements I include from is like that, inversion and eversion. First we have to consider this is the foot. Okay, so the sole of the foot is considered as the main point to note the inversion and eversion on the foot. So if the outward rotation of the sole of foot, it's called eversion, like that, as sole of the foot is in outward rotation, and if they move inward rotation, so this is called the inversion of the foot. Basically this is like that. So these are the basic and most important movements that also include pronation and supination. So first we have to write all of them. Okay, now the first one is ulnar deviation, radial deviation, now the inversion and eversion, inversion and eversion, and the someone is pronation and supination. Actually pronation and supinations are the movement that consist of more than one movement, they are combination of three movements. So on the subtalar, basically in the subtalar joint. So this is pronation, supination. First we have to write that in pronation the movements are included are eversion, abduction, and dorsiflexion. So first write it. Eversion, abduction, and dorsiflexion. And on supination, that includes inversion, adduction, and plantar flexion. So these were the basic movements that are included in this. So simply if we say that pronation is the combination of eversion, abduction, and dorsiflexion, like this movement is something if we considered our hand as a foot, so this movement is something like that, like that, something like that. And this is an eversion, pronation, and this is like that. and in supination on the opposite side like that. Okay, now we have to go on the next part, that is, or next movements, that is called the transverse plane movements. Basically the transverse plane movements, basic in, first we have to write that transverse plane movements. So these includes basically the left and right rotation. Basically this is the rotation that is present in the head and neck and trunk, because when we see on the right and when we see on the left side, that cause the rotation of the head and neck, and that is same like that for trunk. So transverse plane movement includes left and right rotation. Now the next one is, first we have to write medial and lateral rotation. Basically this is a rotation on the arm or leg. So internal and external rotation are basically like that. In the internal rotation, the van rotation is towards the midline of the body, and external van rotation is away from the midline of the body. This is like that. They basically occur on the arm or leg. So these are the basics, basically like that. So next are the movements that are included in this are supination and pronation. First we have to form this on our, or perform this on our forearm. So like that, this is like that. Okay, simply we say that this is our forearm. When this is in this position, this is called the supination, and if we prone them, so this is like that, this is called pronation. So first we have to see the radius is rotated on the opposite side when we perform pronation. So rotation occur on the radius bone. So this is like that, this is called the pronation supination. So next one is the movements that are included in this is horizontal abduction and adduction. Basically horizontal abduction are the simply we say that movements in a transfer from lateral to the anterior position is horizontal adduction, and anterior position to lateral position is horizontal adduction. Like that, if we say that, first we have to flex the arm and then we rotate on any side. If we rotate near to the midline, that is called the adduction. We move away from the midline, that is called abduction. So the other movements includes the, if we form complete circle from our little finger like that, complete the whole circle or complete the whole, this is called the circumduction. Circumduction is basically combination of four movements, or for big movements: flexion, extension, abduction and adduction. This is like that. These are the all are included in the transverse included in the joint movement terminologies, in which we see that the sagittal plane movement, frontal plane movement and transverse plane movement. This is all about, and other movements includes the circumduction. This is all about that.